Hello there. My name is Adam. I am the Insights and Measurement Lead at VIOOH, as Gavin said. And in the next 10 minutes or so, there are really two things that I am going to try and achieve. One, I am going to talk a little bit about the research itself, its format, and the audience that we actually ask the survey to. And the second thing that I'm hoping to achieve is, through sharing some key statistics from State of the Nation this year, I'm going to try and place the discussions and the panels that we're going to hear with my colleagues from VIOOH later on in some kind of context for you. So let me tell you a little bit about what State of the Nation actually is. For 7 years now, VIOOH has partnered with an international research and strategy consultancy called MTM to survey agencies and advertisers across a number of different markets. And this year we surveyed what we call 3 core markets that we've been surveying for a number of years, being the UK, France and the USA. And this year our guest market or region has been the Middle East, which in the research this year is represented by Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. The research itself has really 2 parts to it. As Gavin said, it has a quantitative survey-based part to it, but it also has a qualitative part to it, whereby we interview some key stakeholders from the Middle East to give us their insights with which we can augment the report as well. So essentially there are 4 key market highlight reports in addition to a global report as well, which looks at all of those markets together and tries to draw out some key trends that we're seeing across the development of programmatic out-of-home globally. And I would highly encourage you, first of all, to read the Middle East report, but also to read the Middle East report as a companion to the global report so that you can place what's going on in the Middle East within some wider context as to what's going on around the globe and perhaps see some ideas and some trends that you might see within the Middle East when it comes to programmatic out-of-home in future. So, one of the things that I want to cover is essentially one of the real strengths of State of the Nation, which is what the definition of the respondents that respond to the survey that we ask. It's quite a long survey, but what we've got up on screen now is that definition. And that definition, which is very long and very research focused, which is essentially a joint or sole decision maker from an advertising business working at an agency or advertiser. In addition to being part of that group, those people could have spent budget or placed budget against digital out-of-home or programmatic digital out-of-home in the last 12 months. They could be digital buyers open to buying out-of-home or programmatic digital out-of-home in the next 12 months, or they could have spent budget or placed buys against other programmatic channels. And what's on screen now, which is really key, is that the advertisers must be of director level or above, and the agencies must be of executive level or above. So really, we are aiming to ask these questions to those senior decision makers within the market. These are the people that have the power to change trends and to shift budgets. One thing that I really want to say about State of the Nation is that the survey itself has essentially 2 key elements to it. Number one, we ask in the survey about the behaviours of these people. So we ask them about what they have been doing when it comes to programmatic out-of-home in the last 12 months. We also ask about their attitudes towards programmatic digital out-of-home. And when I say attitudes, what we're really focused on is what they plan to do when it comes to programmatic digital out-of-home in the next 12 months. So in summary, we have the last 18 months. We have a view on what they are planning to do in the next 18 months. And that's really, in my mind, where the interesting insight arrives, in that difference between behaviour and attitude. And that is where I think we will get the most interesting insights when it comes to state of the nation. There are really only two key points left for me to say before we have a look at some of the key statistics before I hand back to my colleague. And number one is a point of housekeeping, as it were. Some of the statistics that you will see on screen today do in fact add up to more than 100%. And the reason for that is that when our respondents were running through the survey, they could have selected more than one response. And the other thing to say, which Gavin has already said really, is that all this data was collected during Q4 of 2025, prior to the current situation in the Middle East developing. So with that, let's have a quick look at 5 or 6 key statistics before I hand it over to my colleague. So when we talk about adoption of programmatic digital out of home in the Middle East, amongst those who have bought programmatic digital out of home in the past year, 34% of their campaigns included programmatic digital out of home in the last 18 months. Marketers are also intending to increase their adoption. So again, amongst recent programmatic digital out of home buyers in the Middle East, 46% of campaigns are forecast to include programmatic digital out of home over the next 18 months. Curated marketplaces are very well positioned to drive growth within the region, with 58% of our respondents in the region saying that they are likely to use a curated solution that prioritises reaching the right audience in the relevant environments. Programmatic digital out of home in the region is also being planned as part of wider digital budgets, with 88% of Middle East respondents saying that their programmatic digital out of home activity was typically planned as part of wider digital or programmatic activity at some point in the last 18 months. And I know this is going to be unpacked later on. Possibly my favourite statistic from the report this year is when it comes to marketers and the channels they like to run alongside programmatic digital out of home. So when it comes to running campaigns for both performance and brand-based objectives, marketers identified social media as the top partner for both objectives. And I know this ties really strongly into the idea of what programmatic digital out of home and mobile as a channel can do for marketers within the region. Again, something that I know we're going to hear a little bit about later on. And then finally, a really interesting and thoughtful insight, which is that marketers want to activate programmatic out of home alongside really rich data sets. And when we asked about the types of data sets that marketers within the Middle East wanted to activate with, 49% said any kind of product affiliated data set. 49% also said any kind of first party data. 47% said some kind of travel behaviour based data set. And 46% said shopping behaviour or other types of shopping based data. And with that, I'm going to stop speaking and I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Jem, who is Director of Global Business Development at VIOOH, who's going to be having a really interesting chat with Leon Mardini from Mindshare.